Hello, everyone, and welcome to our January Party and Friends meetup. I hope you're all doing well during these times and have brought in the new year in a great way. Before we start off this event, I want to quickly talk about Polkadot Decoded. We have already started planning our next edition of Polkadot Decoded to happen on May 20th of this year. And this time we're doing things a little bit differently. We're having this as a community curated conference. And what that means is that we have an open call for proposals at the moment. So please send in any topic you want to talk about, whether it's about Polkadot, Kusama, or Substrate. We would love to hear from you. And hear what's going on in our Polkadot community. And then all successful submissions that come through will be placed into an open vote to the public. So we want to hear what the community wants to hear at the conference. So you have nearly complete control over what we're going to talk about this time around. So super exciting. But yeah, definitely get involved. I'll just send the link in the chat now. Check it out and send in your submissions. Can't wait to see what you come up with. And then for today's event, we got 3 great talks lined up for you. First off, we'll hear from Thibaut. He's going to be talking about how to manage your account securely with Polkadot-js extension. Then we have Herry from Bifrost, and she is going to be talking about Bifrost's vote bidding system. And then finally, we have Chris and Toufiq from Totem, and they're going to be talking about Totem Live and taking account of your to-do list. So it should be an exciting lineup of talks for today. And then, so without further ado, Thibaut, I'll let you take it off.
Thanks a lot. Sharing my screen. And going into presentation. All right. I guess you can all see my screen. So hi everyone. Today, let's talk about how to securely manage your accounts. And I will talk a lot about the Polkadot.js extension because I'm working on it. I'm Thibaut Sardan, working at Parity Technologies, and yeah, working on Polkadot.js. So we're gonna have 3 topics today. One is how to prevent losing your key, your password, and your hardware wallet. How to prevent giving your keys to a malicious actor, and how to prevent getting your keys stolen by a malicious actor. So those 3 things will be presented with a giraffe that is representing any user like you and me with a key, and a raccoon. There might be some very nice raccoon, but this one is not nice. This one is a malicious one, and every time you see this raccoon, it means there's a malicious actor there. So lose your key, your password. Before talking about this, first of all, we're talking about losing your key yourself, like without any malicious actor here. So that's why there's only the giraffe in this slide. And before talking about how you can lose them, first, let's see where you're gonna save your key or where they can be. So where do you store your funds? It could be in a mnemonic, which is this list of words, like 12 or 24 words. This is not encrypted. So if you lose this and someone finds it, they might just take your money. There's also a way to have it your raw private key, which is a hexadecimal string. This is particularly annoying because it's actually a super long string, and if you want to recover your account with this, you have to type it exactly how it is. And if you mistype one character, then you might just not be able to recover your account, and there's no way to know that this is wrong. So this is actually not advised to get or to store your funds in a raw private key. Then there's the way with the JSON, which you probably know, JSON key store, which means this is your private key is encrypted with a password. But if you lose your password, then you cannot recover your account store. So this is kind of more secure than a mnemonic, let's say, but also it has a drawback. And finally, the best way to store your accounts is actually in an offline device, such as Parity Signer or a hardware wallet. For those who don't know what Parity Signer is, it's an application that could make can be installed on, let's say, an old smartphone that you have laying around, and it turns this smartphone into a hardware wallet. You keep it offline all the time, and you will scan some requests that are done with your account with the camera of your phone. You would sign some requests on the phone offline and then show to your webcam on your PC the signed transaction. So this is pretty safe also, and this is, yeah, a recommended way to keep your account there. So how to not lose your account? This is super obvious. Make backups, right? Make secure backups, for instance, in a safe, which, you know, could be accessed when you need them. And another way to actually recover your account is to use social recovery, which is available on Kusama, for instance. And this is a way for instance, the giraffe has friends, the cow, the whale, and the hippo, and it's sharing the access to an account with these people, or these animals in this case. And those people should not know themselves. Like, let's say I have my aunt, and then I have a co-working a colleague, and then I have this old friend from back where I come from. So they don't know each other, they cannot collude. And if at some point the giraffe loses access to their account, to her account, then she can call, you know, the whale and the hippo and say, look, do this and that, and you can get access again, basically, to another account that will, where you can get the funds back. So this is pretty cool. This is against losing your funds, right? Losing your access, like the access to your key. This is not about getting them stolen. So now let's talk about when there's a malicious actor in the game. When your key is actually, when you give your key, whether you really will it or you understand that you're doing something wrong or not. This could happen on a phishing website. For instance, you're logging to Polkadot-js apps and you think that's the right one, and for some reason you're just entering your key there, and then you're actually giving your key to a malicious actor, right? There could be a phishing extension. So an extension that you think is the right one, you're downloading it, installing it on your software, and then uploading your JSON there and giving your password, for instance, and then boom, they have access to your key, right? You're giving it to a malicious actor without really knowing it, but still. And then finally, there's a way which is like a scam, where people, for instance, on Telegram or on Twitter, pretend to want to help you. You know, probably you reach out to everyone saying, oh, I have problems with my account, and these people actually DM you and tell you, hey, I can help you, give me your mnemonic, I'll make sure to recover things. And this is, of course, well, of course, no, not of course, but this can be a scam. And just to be clear, just gonna hide this. Just to be clear, this is should never happen. Like, no one should ever need to have your mnemonic to help you recover things. At Parity or Web3, what we do is actually we help you do whatever you need to do to recover your account, but we'll never ask for your password or your mnemonic to actually do something. So if you have problems, reach out. We'll help you explaining what you should do to get back to your funds. So yeah, in this case, this is the giraffe and the raccoon. There's a malicious actor there. So one rule of thumb that could be followed is never ever type your mnemonic or give your JSON key file or your private key on a website, ever. You should not do this, even on Polkadot.js apps. Like, this is just not secure. And you should never ever send one of these keys to someone, even if they pretend they're from Parity, Web3 Foundation, anything, right? We do not need this to help you if we can. And to prevent, yeah, the need to actually enter your mnemonic or a private key on a website, I would say you should use an extension. And well, of course, I'm working on Polkadot.js apps, so I say, yeah, you can use, you know, Polkadot.js extension, which is what I'm working on. So what does it do? Basically, it's an extension that, like every extension, is not actually part of a website. It's in the browser, but it's a bit external. So websites do not have access to it at all. The only thing that website can do is, you know, communicate with it. So send requests, send, you know, like, well, send stuff to ask the extension to do something. But in the end, you or the diref in this case can, you know, view what is requested and accept and do stuff. One thing that is super important with the Polkadot.js extension is that we're trying to do one thing and to do it well. We're just managing accounts. You will not see any price in there. You will not be able to send funds or swap or something. This is not like MetaMask, because we just want to do one thing. And actually the extension is, the way it's built is as if it was totally offline. Like, it's not talking to a node and things like this. It is not entirely true. I will mention this a bit later. It has access to some external resources, but very, very few. And this is just to try to make the, you know, the security scope a bit narrower and make it harder to get hacked. So I mentioned, if a website is asking for something, it's a name, address, things like this, can send requests to sign things, but it will not ask for your key. So if your account are hosted on the extension, then it's safer. The best still is to have your accounts on Parity Signer, for instance, or a Ledger Nano, which is something we are actually, I just merged the PR to support it, so it will be there in the next version. So even if this website is malicious, should not be too much of a problem. Another rule of thumb is do not access account management website, or generally a website that you interact with your crypto, by clicking on a search engine link. So what can happen, this happens here in my example on Google, but it could happen on DuckDuckGo or other search engine, is that you can buy ads that will appear at the top of the search queries, and they will pretend that they are Polkadot.js apps, and in the end, they will just redirect you to a fake one where they will pretend that something went wrong and they need your mnemonic or whatever. So if you remember to rule number 1, never give your mnemonic on a website, then you should be safer. But to be even safer, just don't use search engines to access such websites. Another cool thing, actually, to remove those ads is to have an ad blocker, such as, you know, uBlock Origin, which is open source. There are tons of other things that you should do. I'm just going to mention them real quick. Bookmark trusted URLs. Once you're really sure that you're on Polkadot.js apps, for instance, bookmark it so that you don't have to search for it after. Only download extensions from the official Firefox and Chrome store. This is, yeah, easier said than done. The day you're scammed, I mean, it's too late, but just the day you're gonna go on some Firefox or Chrome store to download the extension, make sure it's the right one. Just a side note, the Chrome extension is not accessible by searching on the Chrome App Store. You have to go from a link, and this link can be downloaded on, can be found, on the GitHub repo from the extension, for instance. So make sure to just triple check all your sources and make sure the amount of review, the amount of downloads is actually matching. We have a quite significant amount of users already, so this is something you can check. Another really cool thing that the extension is doing is malicious website detection. So in the case of landing on a website that is malicious because you clicked somewhere, or you were lazy this day and you didn't really check, and well, you land on a website, and if you have the Polkadot.js extension, we will actually redirect you to a landing page that says, hey, be careful, this website was flagged as malicious. So now you might ask, okay, how does it know it? And this is where I mentioned earlier, the extension is not entirely offline. It's actually checking one repository that lists all these malicious websites. And so we have a list of websites, and this is where you can help. You can help us actually make this list grow and make sure that we list all the malicious websites out there. So unfortunately, the number of scams is actually growing every day, and if you are on Twitter or on Telegram. By the way, we have no Telegram channel officially for Polkadot. So if there is one, it's a scam. Please, before running away, make sure you check the URL and help us add this URL in the list of malicious websites. Now, if for some reason you still land on a malicious website, what could happen if you have the extension? This is just an example. Let's say you just want to, you go on Polkadot-js apps and you want to send funds to your friend, the hippo. And so, sure, there's this button, send funds to the hippo, and you click on it. And because it's a malicious website, actually the real request will be send funds to the raccoon, not the hippo, although you want it to send to the hippo, sorry. And so because it's offline, it will show you basically the request and say, hey, this is what the website has asked. Please verify it. And there you can see that it's not sending to the hippo, it's sending to the raccoon. And you can say, oh, stop, I don't want to sign this because this is wrong. This is not what I wanted. So this is what could happen if you land on a malicious website. Okay, now let me tell you a story, a scary story actually. So this is happening on, this happened on Ethereum. It's a giraffe, and it's not a noob giraffe. Giraffe has actually listened to everything we said and say, okay, I have funds. I have actually quite a lot of funds, and I will store them on Ledger Nano because I heard that's safe. And I'm on Ethereum, so I'm going to use MetaMask, and I'm going to, use an extension, use a hardware wallet. That's what I just mentioned before, right? So this giraffe is actually using their, wallet and signing stuff quite regularly. And like every day, they're getting rewards like you might do on Polkadot, you're just checking, getting your rewards on. And so she went on a website, clicked on something she does like every day, checked on MetaMask, looks good, it's getting the reward, whatever. Sending on the ledger, it's connected, and because you can't see really well, and again, the giraffe is doing this every day, so clicking through, approving, bam, all good, I'll get my reward. And what happens is actually all the funds from the wallet were gone, and you're like, wait, how can this happen? Like, you just told me we should have a hardware wallet and extension, like, should be fine, right? That's the safest we can do, and now still these funds are gone. This, why? So what happened is that the giraffe had her PC hacked, and everything that is on the PC cannot be trusted anymore. So the website might be a malicious website, and MetaMask might be a malicious MetaMask. And this is what happened. So the website might have been compromised, I'm not sure. The request that was sent said, give rewards to the giraffe, which is what the giraffe wanted to do. So that looks good, you present it on a big screen, you approve. But the real request that was sent to the ledger was actually send all the money to the raccoon. And the big problem here is that the giraffe didn't read really what was on the ledger, because getting rewards, that's what you do every day. It's like, yeah, no problem, I checked on MetaMask, it said all good. And if the giraffe had read and be able to read actually what was on the ledger, this would not have happened. And so this is a scary story, and it happened last month. So it's a CEO from a company that lost $8 million in tokens because this exact thing happened. He was using his ledger every day or every other day, and he was used to get rewards and do small transactions. So when you transfer a lot of money, you're super careful, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to be super careful because I don't want to send 8 million to the wrong person. But when you're doing, the reward like you're doing every other day, you're just clicking through, not even reading. So the real problem here for this person actually is that she couldn't really see, because it was a token on Ethereum. It wasn't really written in human readable words on the ledger. So this person could have seen actually what happened, but did not. And again, this is because like she was used to it. So the main takeaway here is not only you should store your accounts, your funds on a hardware wallet, but you should touch it as little as possible. This is why on Polkadot and Kusama, we have, when you're staking, we have this stash account, which should have all or the majority of your funds. And then the controller account on the other side that has much less funds and that can do many things for the stash account, but it cannot take all the money away. And so this is super important. If you have a large amount of crypto, take it offline and do not use it, so that the day you use it, you're super careful. Because you should be super careful every day, right? When you have when you have a lot of money on some accounts, you should just not touch this account too often. And then the last thing is you should verify like all the time. And so make sure that the biggest amount of your funds are actually secure without touching them. And then whenever you touch something, you can double check. On this note, I mentioned Parity Signer earlier. Right now, Parity Signer doesn't allow you to verify what you're signing, and this is a big problem. And the reason why we can do this is probably too complex to explain now. But anyway, what the end goal is to make this reappear again. And we are we're hiring for a React Native developer. So if you know someone that is a React Native developer or wants to be, please redirect this person to parity.io/jobs, because we need someone to work on something really awesome, which is Parity Signer. That's it for my presentation. Thank you a lot. And if you have questions, I'm there.
Cool. Thank you so much, Thibaut. So far, we had one question come in. What is meant by account visibility in the extension?
Yes, very good question. So let me jump back to this one. So this is where the website is actually requesting things to the extension. So requesting the name and what accounts are there, basically. And if you put your account as invisible, you will not show this account to the website. So it means you yourself see the account, but the website, when they say there's a request that is, give me all the accounts from this person, well, the request that you will answer will not have the account that are invisible. So it's basically to make sure that, yeah, the website cannot link or see any account that you do not want them to see.
Great, thank you so much. I don't think we have any other questions coming in.
Good?
Yeah, I think that's you. Thank you so much, Thibaut.
Thank you. Removing my screen. There you go.
Great. So next up we have Herry. Herry, you ready?
Yes.
Great. Herry is from Bifrost, and she's going to be talking about the Bifrost voting bidding system. Take it away.
Wait a second. Let me do some. Okay. Hi everyone, this is Herry from Bifrost Finance. Today I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the Bifrost vote bidding system, which we refer it as BBS. So, who is Bifrost? Who are we? Bifrost is a parachain designed for staking liquidity. When we say staking here, it includes staking for nominating validators and staking for bidding parachain slots. We are also able to support multiple POS blockchains such as Ethereum 2.0, Polkadot, Kusama, and EOS. So if a POS token holder wants to earn some fresh staking rewards, he can come to the Bifrost VBS and exchange his tokens into V tokens issued by Bifrost. Here, V tokens. So this V token is issued by Bifrost. By doing this, he can earn staking rewards as long as he wants and is able to exchange the V token back into token at any time through Bifrost protocol. In other words, Bifrost provides both profitability and liquidity at the same time. Similarly, we also have the product VS token. VS token stands for Voucher Slot Tokens. It is a receipt for staking for Parachain slot auction, which can be exchanged back to POS token at any time through Bifrost protocol. So we just mentioned V token and VS token. V token and VS token stands for two lines of business of Bifrost. A token holder can earn more than average staking yearly yield by holding V token. Or he can alternatively choose to earn supporting projects token rewards by this Parachain crowd loading system. So here, this is the role of token and V token holder, and also VS token holder. And there's another important role here, validator. This validator can buy enough staking tokens to back his nomination. Also, there are some projects that want to bid for Parachain slots in Kusama or Polkadot. He can buy enough staking tokens from Bifrost Parachain crowd loading system. Today, we are going to focus on this votes bidding system, also referred as VBS. So, what exactly Bifrost vote bidding system is? It is a platform designed for validators to acquire extra staking tokens, for example, DOTs, through bidding. So, the bidding price offered by validators is usually higher than the average yearly yield of staking, which is distributed to the nominators. A typical scenario for validators who come to the Bifrost VBS and bid for votes is like this. A validator already has some but insufficient staking DOTs backing him. In order to get onto the active validator set, the validator is willing to offer a price which is higher than the average staking yearly yield. Once he makes it to the active validator set, he's able to attract more nominators and might reduce his votes he bids from the Bifrost VBS. So let's have a look at the picture to visualize what is this VBS. In general, VBS is an order book to match staking tokens in need with votes available. We can see here on the left-hand side, it is a list of bidding proposals by validators. This list is ordered by ROI. Proposals with higher ROI will be satisfied first. And in the middle, it shows the currently available votes. These available votes are going to match the proposals here into orders here. Once the proposals is matched, the VBS system will automatically stake corresponding, for example, this 50,000 votes to the POS chain for the validator. So here is the code we implement for this VBS system. Firstly, we have this very important onFinalize function. Its main task is to release expiring votes by the end of every block. Every order has an expiring time, either set by the validator or by the VBS system. The VBS only allows an order in service up to 30 days. At the end of every block, the VBS will examine and release the expiring votes to the available pool for matching. So we can see here, firstly, the code examines the expiring orders and release them to the pool. And if it is the end of an era, we're going to clear the current era related storage and get the storage ready for the next era. So here is another important function, which is onInitialize function. It checks the availability of votes and matches the available votes with the unmatched bidding proposals in the waiting list. At the beginning of every block, the VBS will detect whether there are available votes there. If there is, then we will do the matching from the proposal list top down. If the available votes number is negative, which means the vToken holders withdraw his tokens and it is short of votes, then the system will automatically release some votes from the already matched orders with the lowest ROI to give it back to the token holders. So in this system, the most important mechanism is the bidding proposal match mechanism. So as we mentioned just now, all the proposals are ordered by provided annual ROI rates. So higher ordered proposals will be satisfied first. If there are votes, if the votes are not enough for the whole proposal, then the proposal will be split into two proposals, one satisfied and the other is left in the waiting list. So here's the code implemented. So we can see, firstly, we see whether we check whether there are available votes, and then if there is, we'll see whether there's forcibly released votes due to the short of votes. If there is within the era, we will restore the forcibly released votes first. And then if there are remaining votes, we will do the normal matching process. If there isn't any forcibly released votes within the era, then we will all go through down the normal procedure of matching. So every proposal turned into an order in service, the system will deduct the bidder's promised yield from its account on per block basis. As long as the order is still within his service period and the bidder has sufficient funds in his account, the order will continue. But once any one of the above conditions not met, the orders will be cancelled, and the correlate bidder account will be cleared for its slashed deposits. As I just mentioned a little bit, if the onInitialize function finds the available votes is a negative number, which means some vToken holders redeem his vTokens and result in insufficient votes for the votes needed for orders in service. Under this circumstance, the votes matched in the lowest ROI orders will be released. However, If there are votes expiring normally within the same release era, the passively released votes, or as I mentioned, as forcibly released votes, will be restored before any new orders met. So I just guide you through a brief introduction about how the VBS works. Will you have the same question on your mind as I do? Say, since the VBS provides a cheap, easy, and fast way to level up its staking dots, a validator may have the motives for evil. For example, if some malicious validators wants to take down Bifrost by misbehaving in performing the role of validators on purpose, in order to slash 100% of the staking dots he beats from Bifrost. Meanwhile, he might intended to make profits from sharding Bifrost native token BNC in CX and DX. So what can we do? Will he succeed? The answer is definitely not. Because we have, as Bifrost, we have 4-level risk control of the VBS line of business. Firstly, we will set the entering standard for the bidders. We will require the bidder's self-stake plus its supporting nominated stake account for no less than 55% of total votes, which means he can only buy votes from Bifrost VBS up to 45% of his total votes. Secondly, we have a dynamic vote adjustment mechanism. The VBS system will check every era to adjust not to exceed the 45% limit. For example, if the supporting dots for the validator drop by 20% at this era than last era, then the votes he can buy from the Bifrost VBS also drop by 20%. Thirdly, we have a single validator percentage constraint, which means a single validator cannot take up more than 10% of the VBS total votes. Lastly, this double insurance for slash compensation is also working. If slash happens, unfortunately, we will have a 10% total BNC reserve fund for slashing, as well as a 2% deduction to the slash insurance fund from each VBS transaction. So in this case, Bifrost will protect our V token holders' money and give them peace of mind. That's briefly all for my presentation. If you are interested in Bifrost and its vote bidding system, you can log on to the website bifrost.finance to learn more about us. And if you have any question here, and you can ask here, and also feel free to contact me on my email, heyi@liebi.com. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Herry. That was great. It doesn't look like we got any questions in, so I think we can finish it from here. Okay. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. So next up, I want to invite Chris and Toufiq on stage to present Totem Live.
Hi, everyone. Hi, it's Chris DaCosta here from Totem Live and my co-founder, Toufiq.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. I'm just going to share the screen here. So hopefully you can all see that. Okay, so this talk is just going to go through an update of where Totem Live Accounting is since we first presented, which is quite some time ago now, in April 2019, and how far we've come with the project. And we're going to do a demo of something which actually demonstrates what we were originally promising to do, which was sort of peer-to-peer accounting. So this is a quick overview of what we're going to do. So first of all, I'm just going to do a quick overview of the Byzantine generals problem, and why traditional accounting information flow is disconnected, and why P2P accounting fixes this. And then we're going to do a demo in the Totem Live app, which is specifically focused on our tasks and bounties module, although there are other parts to it. We won't be going through that today, and how that relates to purchase orders, invoicing, and settlement. And then how, on top of that, we actually do our peer-to-peer accounting in the financial statements. So just a quick recap on the Byzantine generals problem. This is something that Satoshi originally solved this problem with Bitcoin. And what we're looking at here is essentially two parties who are separated from each other, who want to arrive at some kind of consensus as to how they attack a citadel, which happens to be sitting in the middle here. When they do arrive at consensus, they can attack both at the same time. And we know that that's a problem that's now been solved. It was thought to be unsolvable, but we know that the problem has now been solved. So that's obviously led to an explosion of work in this space, and there's been a kind of history that's followed from that. So this is just to give you an idea of how we see things have evolved. So at the beginning, we have Satoshi solving the Byzantine generals problem with a peer-to-peer consensus mechanism. And the first implementation of that was the use as peer-to-peer cash, Bitcoin. From that, we had an explosion of altcoins. And shortly afterwards, we had the development of Ethereum and smart contracts, which took the idea of what we can do with a peer-to-peer consensus mechanism one step further. That again led to a further explosion of altcoins. And in the last year, of course, we've seen the evolution into decentralized finance. But on the there's another path here, a third path, which is that there could be other use cases for this consensus mechanism that might be not necessarily to do with finance or cash payments, which is where the market has kind of more or less settled on for the last few years. So we've seen things like, and this is obviously a gross oversimplification, we've seen things like Polkadot come along, which offers as one part of its feature, if you like, pooled security. And on the basis of that, we now have the possibility to build individual dedicated functionality blockchains, which can pool their security alongside Polkadot, but actually have individual functionality that might be dedicated to a specific thing. And that's kind of where Totem fits into this, this evolution of blockchain history. And what we can see, obviously, with dedicated functionality blockchains, we have things like Subsocial as well. We're seeing DeFi migrations now into the Polkadot ecosystem, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of other possibilities here that we don't even know what they are yet. But Totem Live sees itself as a dedicated functionality blockchain in that sense. So what is Totem Live Accounting and what's it doing exactly? So we have this notion of peer-to-peer accounting. Until now, whenever a business raised an invoice, there would be a series of steps that were all disconnected. So for example, here we have the creation of the sales invoice. The invoice was then emailed to the client. The client takes the invoice and does some accounting and bookkeeping to turn that sales invoice into a purchase invoice. The client then pays. The supplier receives the payment, into their bank, but doesn't necessarily know anything about it at this point, because the bank has to issue a statement. And that statement is then taken into both the supplier and the client, and they do some more accounting and reconciliation. Then they have to do tax declarations. There are payments and receipts that go along with that. We have another set of bank statements are issued, and then even more reconciliation. And all of these are manual steps. Even in large businesses, there's still a lot of manual effort that's involved in making sure that all of the entries are correct. And we've had an interesting little animation provided by Alex Heller, which might sort of just give you an idea of what the problems are. So this is just running through the process of sending invoices around, issuing payments, issuing bank statements, doing reconciliation, issuing tax documents, and then receiving payments from the various tax parties, and even more reconciliation. So you see from that simple animation that there's a huge number of steps that are all completely separated. And so we've taken the view that if you have a peer-to-peer communication mechanism that can arrive at consensus about what that information is for all parties that are involved, then that might make a really interesting concept for an accounting system. And that's basically where it all started, and how we've sort of ended up where we are. So in Totem Live Accounting, we basically have 2 steps. We don't have the 11 or so, and in fact there's even more steps than that if we look at it in detail. We don't have those steps because whenever something is sent to the blockchain, we can have passive viewers on those blockchain who will see the information in a different way. So if we raise a sales invoice, our customer will see it as a purchase invoice. And that's kind of what we're doing here. So the little animation continues on. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. Well, I don't know what's happened there. Okay, I apologize for that. The animation didn't appear to show there, but basically we have this, if you like, the central part of this animation here is the Totem blockchain, and then we can have any number of parties interacting with that blockchain and having different views on the information that we've stored there. So what is Totem? Totem is basically a peer-to-peer accounting network, and the goal is to take the features of this network and take accounting off everyone's to-do list. So rather than going through all of those individual steps, all of this magic will happen under the hood. So we've kind of designed it for easy onboarding. We've still got a lot of work to do in the development of the application itself, but we've already been 2 years along the line, and we have a small team, and we're hoping to grow it fairly shortly. And what we're doing is essentially addressing the limitations of existing accounting software. So things like setting up customers and vendors is very difficult in normal accounting software because you have to manually enter it yourself. But with a peer-to-peer blockchain network, sharing an identity or an account of some kind is sufficient to give you access to view the information that's relevant to you on a blockchain network. So in Totem, we just view this as sharing identities in Totem. Setting up a chart of accounts is difficult. Inside a traditional accounting software, mostly, even for large systems like SAP, a skeleton set of chart of accounts is supplied. And what's required is a lot of study into the business itself and how it can actually be implemented for that particular business. But I've worked at a large number of international companies, and mostly the chart of accounts is more or less structured the same. So they're doing a lot of repetitive work. And what we've done here is to actually build a large chart of accounts that should cover most use cases, including some very large corporate cases as well. I'm just going to jump out of this presentation to just give you an idea of what that looks like. So hopefully you should be able to see this. It's just a Google sheet where we have balance sheet accounts, assets, non-current assets, current liabilities, etc., etc. And this is the full list of the chart of accounts that is behind the Totem accounting system. And this won't mean very much to anybody that has no accounting experience, but really this is the heart of every accounting system. Once this has been set up, businesses are able to account for everything that they do in a very great detail. And we have over 500 accounts there that cover some quite sophisticated use cases, as well as some quite simple ones as well. So we've tried to make the Totem accounting system as operationally functional for large and small businesses from the outset. So what we're going to do now, in fact, is we're going to go into a little demo to just understand visually what it is that we've done and what we're building, because I appreciate for most people who are looking at this, it's very difficult to understand, firstly, what an accounting system is, why it's important, but also what's actually happening, why would you use it, and what can you do with it. So I'm just going to switch to the Totem Live site, which you can visit today, and you can go and have a look at what it is that we're doing. This is being updated all the time. And I'm going to just, first of all, I'm just going to restore from a backup. And I know that this is not ideal, as Thibaut outlined earlier on, but it's one of the processes that we've put in place just to get us kind of up and running, and to sort of underline that you are the owner of your own data. It's not actually all posted on the blockchain. Most of the data that you have is stored locally, but the intention is to have sort of encrypted backups that are stored in different ways, but not necessarily on the blockchain. So this will, for example, restore history, identities, notifications, partners, and recent chat messages and settings. So obviously there's various options here, but I won't go through these options. I'm just sort of restoring the account so that we can look at this a bit more. So in fact, what it's done there, it's actually changed. It's taken even my settings from, I had it in dark mode already. So we can see that it was previously in light mode, but it's even restored all of the dark mode settings. Just to give you a bit of an idea of what Totem, the interface is, we have various modules here along the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we have a chat window. And the idea is at some point, you may want to chat with other people. So, okay, this looks like Toufiq sent me a message. And these are all kind of features that you would expect to have in any kind of peer-to-peer system that you might be operating. So I won't go through all of what is here, but I will just sort of quickly show a current identity. And I'm going to just quickly change the currency of display. So I'm just going to change it to the British pound for whatever reason. And what you'll see there is it's actually displayed my balance there in pounds. And I can click on that and get some different information. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to create a task. I'm going to create a task for Toufiq, who's, you can imagine, is probably somewhere on the other side of the world, and I'm going to get him to do some work for me. So I'm simply going to create a task here. I'm going to set a bounty amount, let's say £50. I select him from my partners list, and I'm just going to give him a deadline to reply to this, which obviously has to be sometime in the future. I'm just going to say So I've got some other options here that I can enter in, but I'm just going to hide that. And then I'm going to submit this task. Part of this information is going to the blockchain and part of it is being stored off chain. So that transaction has gone through, and you can see here that the task has been created with a bounty of £50. If I go back to my identities, in fact, you can see that I have now £50 locked from my original balance that I can't access, because in fact what I've done is I've just created a task for him to do, and then I've effectively communicating to him that I'm setting aside some funds for him so that he can trust me to do the work. And I'm just going to open up the financial statements part here as well. So we have some information here, not all of it yet, because we haven't actually posted everything yet. I'm just going to show we've got a small bug here, so you'll have to sort of forgive us for this because we have to fix this. This balance should be in line with the actual balance itself, but it isn't at the moment. And what it's showing us here is that the £50 that was taken as the bounty has been placed into a special runtime deposit escrow account. That it's still my asset, but I can't actually release it from there just yet. And it's basically held on chain on my behalf. If Toufiq doesn't complete the task or doesn't accept the task, then I can claim that money back. But if he has accepted the task, then the expectation is that he will do the work and then obviously submit an invoice. So I guess Toufiq, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm asking.
Yes, I can hear you. I just accepted the task.
Oh yeah, there we go. So he's just accepted the task from me, and obviously he would now carry out the work itself. And at some point, he would he would sort of send me a message and say, "Hey, I've finished the task. What do I do now? Okay, can I invoice now?" Yes. Go ahead. And what we will see is Toufiq's invoice will be issued. And after a few seconds, obviously the blockchain has to communicate it to me. I now have the option to pay or dispute this invoice that he sent to me. But something interesting has happened here, because our financial statements have been updated. We've got some control accounts here which say that a vendor has actually sent me an invoice for £50. And this means that I have a liability for £50 owed to Toufiq. And in the previous view of this balance sheet, we only had sort of the asset part, but now we have a liability that's come in. Toufiq has effectively issued me with an invoice, and it's become a liability now that I must either dispute or pay. In this case, I'm going to pay it. And this transaction is going to be issued on the blockchain and marked. In fact, what's happening is its state has changed and it's been marked as completed. And if we look at the let's just go back to look at the identities. Hang on, I haven't got much screen space here. Go back to look at the identities. In fact, the funds have been released from the lock. My balance has changed, and Toufiq on his side has just confirmed that funds have been received and that he's able to, he's happy that I've paid him. And if we look at the balance sheet here, the liabilities now, there aren't any liabilities because it's automatically been updated. And in the profit and loss, I now have some expenses that have been correctly categorized as a service. In this case, a task is just considered a service. And all of that was done without any accountant or bookkeeper ever being involved with it. And not only that, not only was it done on my side with my financial statements, but it was also done on Toufiq's side as well. So he will see the equivalent but opposite entries in his profit and loss side. In fact, he would have not an expense, but he would have a revenue entry. And in the control accounts, he would have had payables, which got cleared as soon as I paid it. And in the balance sheet, obviously, his assets would have increased by £50 because he has some new funds on his account. So that's a very, very brief introduction as to what we set out to do nearly 2 years ago. And if we go on a bit further, we've got an announcement to make here, which is that this year we're going to be going for a crowd sale. So hopefully this demo has given people an idea of what it is that we're doing and where we're going. And the crowd sale itself is going to be handled inside the Totem Live app. So all of the mechanisms that are required for making the deposits and doing the accounting on those deposits are all going to be handled inside the app. Not just to prove that we can do it, but also it makes it very useful for anybody who's taking part in the crowd sale to get their accounts in order as well. And we're going to be using the fund to grow the team and accelerate development, which we expect to have our mainnet hopefully connected up with Polkadot in 2022. So we've still got a long way to go. And also, obviously, with the recent release of the Rococo chain, Totem is joining that as a parent chain. We have our slot registration in place. If you're interested in the crowd sale, please sign up. That's the address. So it's totemaccounting.com, and there's a registration form at the bottom. And we'll notify you as soon as the information is available, as soon as we have our crowd sale up and running in the app. Lastly, I'd just like to thank, obviously, Carol-Anne and the team at Parity. And if you have any, if you want to reach out to me, for example, you can reach out at totem_live_ or at CJ DeCosta on Twitter. So both of those are on Twitter. And in fact, if you're interested in joining us, then we have some jobs that are available that you can find here at docs.totemaccounting.com. Well, you can see the link for yourself. And that's about it from us, actually.
Great talk. Thank you so much, Chris and Toufiq. We got one question in.
Okay.
Accounting practices sometimes can vary from region to region. Is Totem kind of generic so that it can be tailored for specific use cases or regions?
Yes, actually, this is the interesting thing about the chart of accounts, is that what it's doing is it's just recording the information. And after that, there's always a second step where you go through the process of adjusting that information according to the rules of your region. But the one thing that we sort of anticipate doing is having much more community participation in deciding how these rules should be applied, and also updating them as time goes on, because the rules change all the time. Under the hood, however, the actual mechanisms that are required to update the chart of accounts won't change. It's how you report on the information afterwards that does.
Great. Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much. I don't think we have any more questions coming in, so I think we will end things here. Thanks again to all of our speakers, Chris, Toufiq, Thibaut, and Herry. It was great to have you all here today, speaking at our first meetup of 2021. And just a quick reminder that the submissions for proposals still open for Polkadot-Decoded, so please submit anything you'd like to talk about. And then if you've seen this meetup and you want to speak at it and you have an interesting project on Substrate, Polkadot, Kusama, we'd love to have you on board. Just send a quick email to events@parity.io. I'll just type it in here as well. And we'd be happy to have you on board. Thanks again, and everyone have a great evening. Hold on, we got 2 questions. Very slick demo. Are the communication chats related back to the tasks?
The chat mechanism is actually completely separate, but the idea is in the long term that, for example, you could reference a particular document. Imagine I was doing lots of work with Toufiq, maybe he has 20 tasks, or maybe he's assigned to me, I don't know, 4 or 5 tasks. Rather than just sort of having a generic chat box, we aim to be able to link a specific document to a conversation. So we could reference that document in the conversation, yes.
One thing to add to that is that we are actually already planning to add topic-based chat mechanism where for individual task you can have a separate conversation and it will not be mixed up. So which is not implemented yet, but we already know the problem and we already have planned to implement it.
Nice. And then we have another question here. Is there any plans to offer integrations or partnerships to other POS or ERPs?
Well, we're going directly in competition with ERPs. So for those who don't know, that's enterprise resource planning software like SAP. It's used with large sort of organizations. We see that what we're doing is a completely different way of doing accounting. It's not the traditional way of building an isolated silo of information, which is what SAP is, for example, or even the smaller ones like QuickBooks. They're all isolated silos. So the way we do it doesn't necessarily is not necessarily targeted at integrating with those systems. It's either competing with us or switching to us. So that's kind of the long-term view.
Cool. Thank you so much for answering those questions. I don't think anything else has come on. So I think we can end the event here. Thanks again. And I hope to see you all at our next meetup in February.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.